And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the effects of DevOps on applications, how we've kind of transitioned from the old way to the new way, and then how that actually kind of benefits security. And then I'm going to talk about when you're applying security to an application, where, when, and how. And in the how piece, I'm really going to talk to you guys about some of the successes that I had and kind of how you guys might be able to replicate that within your own organizations. So just kind of kicking off and getting started, this is your old application. The way that it used to be done was you built a server, you threw everything on it, and you just threw this massive glut of code out there onto a system, and you had to replicate that across all of your environments. And this is where security, somebody like myself, was very kind of comfortable. We were used to dealing with deployment teams, server administrators, network guys, all of that kind of stuff. And we were never really, we didn't really concern ourselves too much with developers. And application security was something that really was taken and kind of pushed off onto the developers. If you guys kind of lived in their own world. Well, that was then, and this is very much now. I mean, you look at your application on DevOps, and it looks very, very, very different than anything that a traditional security person would even think about. We went from everything being on an operating system contained within either a virtual machine to being able to now run containers. You're now, having cloud services get involved. And then the serverless technologies where you are taking and actually removing something that a security person like myself is very used to, an operating system, and running everything inside of serverless technologies. And this has made things rather difficult for traditional security teams. But what this has also done is that this has opened up avenues for security teams to be able to get in and actually form and help secure applications long before they ever get to the point where we would traditionally be trying to secure them, which is, for the most part, at runtime. And to that, one of the things that you want to think about is, we can divide this up into kind of a when, a where, and a how. And the when is something that has come along that's kind of fairly new. It used to be that everything was done at runtime, and that has changed. So security shares a great deal of acronyms and ideas, concepts with a military, like physical conflict, that kind of a thing. And this is a concept that came out of the US Army's Pathfinder program, and it's basically called left of bang. And as a security person, or just kind of as a general idea for you guys, bang is an event. In the physical world, it's an attack. In cybersecurity, for the same thing, it's an attack, it's an incident. With DevOps now, we have more opportunity now to move what is called left of bang. We can take actions and measures to make sure that that explosion, that attack, never actually occurs. And also, when you think about kind of applying this to DevOps, bang is really kind of deployment. So left of bang, where everybody wants to be being proactive, moving into this DevOps model where everything is code, you that has actually opened up channels of communication and more opportunities for security to inject itself into the proactive area than where most people are thinking about being reactive, which is kind of your standard security when you're thinking about it. This has brought like the CI/CD pipeline in. This has brought code review and a bunch of other tools into into security kind of as a whole. It used to be that was just application security. It sat off to the side. That was kind of its own thing. Here now, with the new DevOps model, you have security teams that can now get involved in the proactive, making sure vulnerabilities are present, having part of the code review. But the right side is still very, very important. Runtime security, which is really the right side of deployment. And that has the importance of that has not gone away. But what has changed in all of this is how we're doing it. And to that piece, the question becomes where. Okay, so we now know when we want to be able to secure it at runtime. And now we have options of being able to secure our applications and our products before they ever get deployed. But where are we going to secure them? Along what channels and along what lines? Well, we've got multiple layers that go into cybersecurity, and more specifically applications. There's the data, application, operating system, virtualization, infrastructure, physical. The shared responsibility model obviously takes bits and pieces of that out of your purview, but it is still incredibly important to figure out where you can apply security across the board. Are you using containers? Are you using AWS? Are you using something like Lightsail, where you've migrated into serverless technologies? What are all of the pieces and parts that are going into your application stack? And how do you go about making sure that you have a visibility into each and every single one of those parts? So I would not be a good Trend Micro employee if I didn't bring this up. And this is our Cloud One offering. But I'm not going to talk about it specifically as part of what we can offer, but really more of giving you guys an example of where you can apply security within your application. So, and this is going to speak directly to the layers of themselves. So we have a piece here called conformity, and it is what I call, it's a cloud service posture program. And you have that layer of your cloud. So you want to be able to get visibility into what's going on. How many EC2 instances are you running? How many Lambdas are being triggered on an average? What are the rules for deployments, and the very simple things of, do you have something in your environment like an S3 bucket that's open, right? So you have that layer of your application that you have to worry about, and then being able to apply security with a tool that is going to let you know what's going on. Another piece is storage. You have applications, we've been able to successfully take them from these kind of very large monolithic applications to spreading them out. So we have individual pieces, which is fantastic as far as the end result for the customer, right? It becomes far easier for us to upgrade, deploy, add new features, remove old vulnerabilities. But now now we might not necessarily have that big data storage piece to be able to, where we're recalling files from. So something that is going to look at your cloud storage. Where are you storing the data that is being used by your application? The other piece that comes into it is the deployment of your applications. So are you using something like a container? Are you using Kubernetes, or have you gone true serverless? And the application security piece that runs, the ability to secure something at runtime, is still incredibly important. So we have, and there are one or two other competitors out there that have something where our application security product is a code library that gets brought in to run either in front of or directly inside of your application. And so if you're using, your application is all deployed through Lambda, we can allow that to be secured through there. So you can protect it at the serverless level, or if you are using containers, you want to be able to make sure that those containers themselves are secured. Our workload security piece does just that. It's kind of your traditional stack where it will protect the operating system, the application that's running on it, and then if you're running something like Kubernetes or a container, it will be able to have visibility into that container while it's running to be able to provide those protections. Yes, sir.
I'm just checking some of the questions here, and I just want to summarize it. There are many questions coming up, and I've got lots of $10 gift cards I've got to give people in terms of Trend Micro supporting multiple platforms, not only GCP, AWS, and Microsoft, maybe Oracle as well, and also cross-platform, on-prem, in the cloud, hybrid.
Yes.
And I think as I've listened to this, and you can just comment a little briefly, the real value of the Trend Micro platform, and I think this slide does a good job of illustrating it, is that security in an application, cloud-based, database world is really a whole different mindset with, as opposed to just a traditional on-prem environment from like even 10 years ago. And when you have to grapple with things, the good thing about Trend Micro is that you could have enough skills, resources to either work with your existing solutions or be able to provide solutions and a single pane of glass management console to protect people regardless of their choices of platforms, databases, et cetera. Is that a reasonable summary?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Cloud One platform, and like I said, I was kind of trying to keep vendor agnostic, but the Cloud One platform that we have is set up to work both in the cloud and on premise and through those hybrid environments. And really kind of no matter what type of application you're going to be running, we're going to have, and so I talked about like the layers, the different layers. Here we have all of the different layers that you can can be protected based upon the choices that you're making and the tools that you're using. But also earlier I talked about the container security piece that we have and the SNCC open source security that we also leverage. That is a proactive feature that we have. So if you're using containers like Kubernetes, what we can do is integrate that product in with your CI/CD pipeline, where when you go and make a deployment of, okay, I've built this container, it's awesome, I want to get this out and get it deployed, that container security piece is going to go through, and before it ever gets to the bang, security, that we're going to go through and perform a scan on it. We're going to look at the libraries that are in there, tell you what vulnerabilities are in there. We're going to look for, you can program it to look for like secret keys, malware, all of that stuff. And where this becomes important is that, you can set rules to say that no container will be allowed to hit the repository if it has a vulnerability with a CVSS score of 7. And all of the platforms and all of the products that we have here have full APIs to them and can be integrated into a CI/CD pipeline. So in the case of the container security piece, it's going to go through, it'll perform its check, and then if that check fails, it can immediately send a notification back through whatever communication tool that you're using to either notify you, hey, this is a problem and here are all the issues, or potentially restart the scan if you feel like there was a mistake that was made. But the Trend Micro Cloud One suite platform is designed to be able to help you secure at least all of the wheres, how you're going to be running it with the application and workload, but also when are you going to be securing it? Are you going to be securing it early, or are you going to be securing it at runtime?
Ander, I think that's great stuff. I'm not sure we're going to be able to answer all the questions. I'll follow up at the end as we summarize it. The key thing, and I think I will just tell you that everyone should download the slide deck. And if you look at the previous diagram, you have to understand all those different pieces of the puzzle that has to go into your broader application to security strategy. And then you could work with Trend Micro and figure out what's the right solution, be an existing one or something else Trend Micro offers. The important thing is that's the right framework and you need to cover all those bases. Sorry for interrupting. We got about 5 minutes left, but I just want to point out that summary.
No, not a problem. And that's actually kind of a very good segue into what I was going to talk about very last, which was the how. And how you go about securing an application is as I talked about earlier, the importance of the developer in the DevOps model is new. It's not something a lot of security teams are used to. Go ask your security team what it means when you walk up to somebody and like their mouse is turned over. And in order to be successful in this way, you have to have a combination of tool and processes, and that requires communication, communication, just like you had referred to. Working with the security teams, understanding of what you have going on, and being able to set up communication and a relationship between the security and the development teams. DevOps did a phenomenal job of closing that feedback loop and bringing the developers as far into the cycle as we could, or as is possible, and having a team, a good team and a good relationship with security and development is really how you get this working. And the way that we do this at Trend Micro and the way that I was successful in the past was that security became a consumer of the information. We would set the rules and say, hey, as far as security goes, these are the things that we can't have, moving out into deployment. But we would never step in and say, you can't do this, you can't do that. We were the consumers. So the development teams would actually own the tools, how they were deployed, stuff like that. And we worked more as kind of a regulatory group, going to them, these are the things that kind of have to be obeyed. And then the development teams would build those rules into the tools. And so that way we were not really coming in and interfering, that you want those deployments to be as seamless and as quick as possible. But having that security team basically become the consumer of the data of those tools. So I talked about like the container security piece. We would never have gone in there and set the rules as to, we would have told them what they were. They would have set the policies, but then we would have been seeing when something was rejected and why. Or the application security piece, we wouldn't be the ones to go out and deploy it, but we would be seeing the alerts and everything that was being generated by it. So we were not necessarily actively involved in it. We would come to them, work with them, make sure that we had tools and visibility in place to be able to get the data that we needed. But we basically became a consumer of that kind of DevOps process, working with those guys, letting them do what they do best, but having us just kind of watch over their shoulder and leveraging those tools to be able to make sure that when something got out, it was deployed in a way that was safe and secure, and that we had visibility into the runtime to make sure that if something was attacked, that we had all of the information that we needed to be able to do our jobs and cleaning everything up. So I appreciate your time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in chat. I'll try and stick around and answer them. Or just you can reach out directly to me. I believe that my email is included in the attendee list.